Hi ladies and gentlemen, in this video we are going to compare the capabilities of Power Pivot and Power BI. As we all know, we have Power Pivot inside Excel that allows us to analyze large data sets, millions of rows of data sets, create relationships, have measures, and we write DAX in our Power Pivot. And we also have Power Pivot inside Power BI also. So the Power Pivot inside Power BI is there natively, and you also have other additional features like the Power BI service. You have a lot of other features that you can share your report and those things in Power BI. But we first of all want to take a particular data set. We are going to do a very simple analysis on this data set in Power Pivot. We are now going to go to Power BI also and do the same thing and compare and contrast. So ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. So in order to have the Power Pivot inside our Excel, if you are using Excel 2010, 2013, you need to actually install the add-in, the extension that you will use. So this add-in, you need to install it. You are going to see the link in my video description. But if you are using Excel 2016, 2019, or any other versions of Excel like Office 365 or Microsoft 365, you have Power Pivot natively inside your Excel. You just need to bring it out. So what do? We are going to come to File, More, and we are going to go to Options. Under Add-ins, we are going to go to Come Add-ins. We click on Go, and we are going to activate our Power Pivot for Excel. We click on OK. Now we have Power Pivot. We can see now that we have Power Pivot. Now that we have Power Pivot, we now need to take a look at the data we want to analyze. So the data we want to analyze is the Mexico toy sales data set. So which is inside Marvin Analytics Data Playground website. So you have the video, you have the link in the video description below, which you can also download it. So once you click on download, you have your data set on your PC. So what do I do now? I have my data sets already, and we can see now that these are the 4 Excel files. These are the CSV file that we have for the data set. So we go back here now, and we are going to just basically come to data, come to our Power Query interface. We connect to our Excel file. And now we just bring in the data one by one. We import this guy and we click on transform data. Now that we have that, we need to bring in other files. So we just right click, new query, file, test or CSV, and we bring in the product. We repeat the same process again. So okay, and we bring in all the other ones. And we bring in the last item, the last file now. Now that we have all our files now, we just need to quickly take a look and see if everything looks good. We may just need to do simple transformation. And when we come to our inventory products, we have our product. We can see now the product cost, which is supposed to be a number, which is a text now. We can now actually see now that we have a currency just in front of it. This currency now is making this cost not to be a number. So it's seeing it as a text. So we need to remove this $sign. So it's very easy to remove. We can just come to transform. We come to extract and we extract text after delimiter. In this case, our delimiter is going to be the $sign. So we just put $. Okay. Now we have our product cost. We convert it to currency. Now we do the same thing again. Extract text after delimiter, $sign. Okay. Everything looks good. So this is our data now, but we can see now that our data has what? It has date column. So we want to eventually do time intelligence analysis in our data set. So for you to be able to analyze your data with respect to month, year, quarter, and also perform time intelligence analysis, it means we also need a particular query, a particular file, or we call it dimension file. So that dimension, it allows you to explain your data. So in this case now, our sales data is going to be the facts, while inventory, product, and stores are only files explaining what we have in our sales. They are only explaining what we have in our sales, and they are called the dimensions. So we want to generate a calendar file now. In order for me to generate my calendar file, I have a video already that teaches how to generate calendar table inside Power Query. You can see the video description. You can see the link in the video description. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to come to a text file on my PC. I'm just going to copy everything I have here. These are end codes. I copy it and I'm going to create a new query. Basically, I'm going to create a blank query basically. And in my blank query, I'm just going to paste this end code inside in the advanced editor, and I select everything and I paste what I have now. Done. And we can rename, we can call it calendar. So this is our calendar now, which basically contains date, year, quarter name, month number, month name. Everything looks good. Now once we are done with this, everything looks good. We just need to check everything looks good here. Our product, everything looks good also, and our sales. This is our sales. Now we just need to close and load. We close and load to. So in this close and load to, because we want to work with Power Pivot, we are going to basically add this data to data model, and we're also going to use it in a pivot table report. That is where we want to do the analysis. So once you click on pivot table reports, it automatically selects this guy. So for example, if I uncheck it and I click on pivot table report, it selects the data model. So if you select other ones, it does not necessarily select this data model here. So I'm going to click on pivot table report and I have it here, and I'm going to click on OK. Everything looks good. It's going to now load our data inside Excel as a pivot table. It's create a connection to it, so you don't have your data directly imported here. So this looks good. It's loading it. What we now need to do is we can either come into our Power Pivot tab, or we use it over here. Now that we have our data loaded already, and that's why we can see the fields of each of the table, of each of the queries. Now we can see it, and everything looks good. If you come over to data now, you click on queries and connection, you can see now that we have the data loaded: inventory, product, sales, stores, calendar. So in order to use the Power Pivot now, we can either use it through this. You can see this icon now, it opens the Power Pivot window, or we come to the Power Pivot tab and we click on manage. Now that we're in our Power Pivot tab, we have the data view, the diagram view. If we click on diagram view, it is where you create your model. You create relationships between each of those tables that we have. Remember, we have dimension files, and we also have what? We have fact file. So the dimension files are going to connect to the fact file. Our sales is our fact file. All others are explaining it. And we can also switch to data view again. So you can always switch between these two. And we have all our tables. We have our tables now. We have our tables. These are all our 5 tables. So I'm going to come to diagram view and create relationship. And in order to do that, let me just change the arrangement of this guy. And we have this. Now for our relationship, we basically want to connect primary key to foreign key. So we have a primary key in our sales. Now we are going to connect date to date in calendar. Now the relationship has been created. We are also going to connect store ID to store ID, and you just drag and drop. we are going to connect, this is our inventory and we have our product over here now. We are going to connect product ID to product. Now that we have connected our product ID to product, our inventory is going to actually be connected to store, because for each of the store it has separate inventory. So each of the store has separate inventory, which means that if you take a look at your store ID over here, the store ID over here is not going to be, is going to have repeated value. So we are now going to basically connect our store ID in inventory to what? To store ID in stores, because each of the store has what? Has different products available. So we connect it together. You are not going to connect inventory to sales directly. You won't actually be able to do that. It's going to have an error of many to many. So if you do something like this, and we have the relationship cannot be created because each column contains duplicate what? Values. Your dimension table is supposed to contain unique keys. It's not supposed to contain duplicate values. So that is why we are just going to basically connect store ID to store ID now. So we just drag and drop and release when you have the rectangle box. The advantage of this relationship is that it replaces you using lookup functions like XLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, index or match. You can just create relationships between different tables that you have and everything looks good. You are happy. Now we have our relationship created. Without our relationship created, you may not be able to do some things. Now we want to write simple measures. For example, if you come to sales now, or for products, we can see now that we have product cost and product price. So the cost is the cost price and product price is the price it was actually sold. This price each item was actually sold. So what we are going to do in that case is we want to know, and if you come to sales, you are going to see now that we have units. For some products, you are going to have more than one unit. So which means that at the end of the day, you want to multiply the units sold, which is quantity, by what? By the product price, so that you can know what? You can know the total amount of sales for each particular product in the sales table. Now we are going to create our sales measure that allows us to know the amount of money made for each particular sales ID in our sales data, in our sales table. So now we are just going to make sure that we are on a particular cell, or you just first of all click on calculation area, and I want my sales to be stored and to be displayed here. So I'm going to come to my formula bar now. I can increase it now, and I'm just going to have sales equals to what? Some X. And I'm going to first of all specify the table I want it to be, or that I'm doing my calculation on. So which is the sales table, comma. And what do we do next? We need to do the expression, which is what? Unit price multiplied by what? The unit cost, unit price multiplied by the quantity. So now it is going to be what? Sales units multiplied by what? Now you want to multiply it with another item in another table. In order to do that, you need to use a function called related. So it allows you to go into another table and you are going to multiply it with what? With product price, and you close your bracket, second time, and everything looks good. Now we have our sales measure already. Now we have our sales measure already now, and we can see now that we can also see the value. So what we can do is we can just expand it to see it, and we can see now that we have the value. Now we have the value. So this is the sales. Now this is the total amount of sales, so it multiplies it row by row together. So another thing we can do now is we want to know the total cost. So we are going to specify total cost in our formula bar. We write another measure for that, And inside this measure now, we basically want to do something similar, except that we are now using the cost price now. So it's going to be sales also, comma, and we are going to specify what? We are going to specify units, the column, this column now, we are going to specify it, which is going to be sales unit multiplied by what? We use the related function again. And inside our related function, we need to specify product cost now. And we close our bracket once and we close it second time, enter. Now we are going to have the results displayed here now in a moment. Now we have that now. We can see the result now. So we can also decide to know the profits. We can just call this guy profit, which is basically going to be what? It's going to be sales. It's going to be sales minus total cost. And we close our brackets. Now, these are measures that have been created. These are explicit measures that have been created. We can now go back into our pivot table now. We can go back to our pivot table and do some analysis that we want now. So this is our pivot table. Pivot table analyze. We want to show the feed list. Now, in our pivot table now, there are some things we may be interested in seeing. For each of the product categories, we want to know the profits that has been made. So we just check product category, we have it in rows, and we bring our profits to values. Now we have it now. And we can also create another pivot table again. We can insert a pivot table. So we are going to make sure it is from the data model so that it connects to this data. And we create another pivot table. What we want to do now is we want to have month against year against sales. So we want to compare the amount of sales made in each month. So we are going to have month name in rows and we are going to have year in columns. And after we have that, we are going to come to our stores and we are just going to have not stores now but sales. We are not just going to have sales inside our values. Now we have it, but you can see now that it is not sorted properly, which means that we need to go back into our Power Pivot. We come to the calendar table and we are going to have our month name and we are going to sort month name by what? Month number. So we are going to have sort by column and we are going to have column name, month number. Okay, everything looks good. We are happy. And we just come back into our pivot table and we can see now that it is sorted properly. Now we can see now that it is sorted properly. So these are three. We can also create another pivot table now. Insert pivot table again. So for this pivot table, we want to know the top 10 products with respect to the amount of sales. We want to know the fast selling products. So in order to do that, we are going to come to our products. We are going to have product name in rows and we are going to have sales in values. So after we have done that, we just basically right click and we basically right click on the column header now. On the header now, we are going to have value filters top 10 and we can also change it to bottom 10 if we want. So we want top 10 by sales and we click on OK. And you can decide to sort this afterward by right clicking and you sort from largest to lowest. So we can see now these are simple analysis that we can do, and this is pivot table. We are making use of Power Pivot through our data model. We have written simple DAX measures inside Excel. From this now, we can now see now that we have been able to create simple analysis. Now we have done it. We have top 10 products, we have products profits by category, and we also have sales by month and year. So we can create a simple chart from here now. So we can just come over to each of the pivot table. You can just do Alt F1. Now you have your chart. We still need to do some formatting to it. We can do some basic formatting to it. For example, I don't want this guy. I just right click and I'm going to hide all fields. I also don't want this guy. I can just remove it, and we can reformat this. We can just call this what? We can call this product category, sales by product category. And we can right click, format data series, and we can just change, we reduce the gap width. We can reduce the gap width over here now. And these are simple analysis that we can do. And another thing we can do now is we can sort our data from largest to smallest so that you can easily know which one is the highest sales. And we just come to our pivot table, we right click, and we have largest to what? Smallest. Now we have this, everything looks good. So we can also, everything looks good basically for now. There are still some things we can do, but we are not doing charting and visualization now. We can also just come over to our time series analysis for the sales now. We are just going to have Alt F1 again. It displays a chart for us, but we don't like this. We can come to pivot chart analysis, or you come to pivot chart design and you change your chart type to a line chart. You change your chart type to a line chart and we bring it down now. Bring it down. So what you can do over here now is let us remove this. Let us hide these items again. Let us hide these items again. And another thing we can do is, let me just increase this. We bring this somewhere up. We bring this legend somewhere up, and we have this, and we just do some simple adjustments because we are still going to have our chart title. We are still going to have our chart title. Another thing we can do to this chart is that we can format the y-axis labels, and we can make it to start from somewhere around 400,000 because we don't have anything here. And if you don't, we already know that, okay, we don't anticipate our sales is ever going to be less than 400,000 in any of the months. So we are just going to come to format axis. We can change this guy to 400,000, and we have it adjusted. And after we have changed the minimum to 400,000, what we can do now is we can put a custom formatting here. So for our custom formatting, we just basically scroll down and we change this guy to custom, and we come over here now. We remove the one for negative. We put a 0.0 to show that we want it to be in one decimal place, and we add one comma, another comma, and we now put M to represent that, okay, I'm using a million custom formatting now, and I'm going to click on add. Now it means that we have 400,000 here, which is 0.4 million, Everything looks good. Everything looks good. There are still some other stuff we can do, but we stop over here for now. And this is our analysis. You can decide to take these two guys. You just take it to another sheet, basically. You take it to another sheet, basically. Now we have it in another sheet, and we can do different types of, we can add more to it and build our dashboard in Excel. We just rename this, and we call it sales by month and year. And everything looks good now. Now we need to head over to where? To Power BI and repeat the same process. In this second part of the video, what we want to do now is we basically want to use our Power BI to connect to the same data source and build a very simple report from it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. We are basically going to get our data. You can get your data from CSV directly, and we have these sources. And we just bring it in one by one. We bring it in one by one, and we do transformation in our Power Query, and we click on transform data. It takes us to Power Query, and from Power Query we can just click on new source again, new source, and test our CSV. Then we bring in product. Okay. Then another new source, test our CSV. We bring in sales. Then another new source, test our CSV. We bring in stores. Now we just need to quickly do the same transformation we did in Power Query of Excel. So I can just quickly come to my product, and for my product, I just come over to my product cost and transform, extract. Okay, we can deactivate these guys, and we extract test after delimiter. So our delimiter is $, and extract again, test after delimiter, and everything looks good. Everything looks good, and we just basically need to have our calendar table again. So what I can just do is I'm going to copy and paste it again and create a blank query. And I come to my view, advanced editor, and done. Rename it and call it the calendar or calendar. It's okay. Everything looks good. Now once we are done with this, we just need to give it time. Now we have our calendar table now, and we can see now that our sales is our fact table, and all the others are what are the dimension tables. We can close and apply now. We can close and apply, and it brings us to the Power BI interface now, and we can see now that it is loading those queries now. It's loading them into our Power BI desktop. Now we have our queries loaded into Power BI. We cannot go into the modeling. We need to go to the model view so that we model our data and create relationships. So the same way we did it in Power BI, in Power Pivot, is the same way we are going to do it. And we can see now that it is trying to create a relationship for us automatically. You can activate or deactivate this in your option menu in the Power BI desktop. So in this case now, we can see now that it's trying to do some things which are not necessarily correct. So we just need to remove those relationships and do our relationships ourselves. The best practice is you just deactivate it, which can be done over here. We can deactivate it so that it doesn't create relationship for you automatically. So when you come to options and settings, and we are in options now, we come to file, options and settings, we click on options, and we come to data load. We can see auto detect new relationships, so we can uncheck it. This should have been done even before importing or doing any transformation at all. So this is the implication. We can click on OK, and this is for the current file. Now that we have deactivated it, we click on OK, and we can just bring data to data, and inventory is supposed to go to stores. Yeah, inventory is supposed to go to stores. So we are going to connect store ID to store ID. So there are some few things we can do. We can see now that these are in numbers, so we could have just leave it as text. So we can always go back to your Power Query interface and do editing by changing the data types. So we can always do that in our Power Query. So which I want to show us now. We can just convert this to guy and convert it to a text data type. increase current, and we do the same. We come to product 2. You can convert it to what? Text data type, and sales. Change type, text. Yes. And stores, again, we can convert it to and everything looks good. We close and apply. Now that we have done this, now we can write simple measures. Now we can basically write simple measures that we want to use. Now we come to our report view. Under our report view, we can see now that we have the different tables. We have all of them now. So we can basically do the same thing we did in our Excel. We can do the same thing we did in our Excel, but we need to write measures first. So the first measure we want to write is for our sales. We need to determine our sales. I'm basically going to click to create a new measure. Now I want to write our measure now for sales, which is the selling price, selling cost, selling price, which is basically going to be equals to sum x again, which is going to be sum x into what? Into sales. And we want to multiply the units by what? Units by products. So by related again, related product, which is going to be product price. We close the bracket once and we close it the second time and we press enter. And everything looks good. That is our selling price. We right click again to create our cost price. So for our cost price now, we are going to have some similar scenario, which is going to be sum x and sales, comma relate. It's going to be sales again, units multiplied by related products and product costs. Close the bracket once, close it second time, enter. So this is one way we can do it. There are also other alternative ways with different performance metric that they have. So we have our selling price and cost price now. We can now have our our profit. We can have our profit now as another measure, which means that we basically want to subtract selling price from cost price. And we right click again, we create a new measure and we are going to call it profit, which is basically going to be selling price minus cost price, and enter, and we have it. So now we can quickly do what we have here again, sales by month and year and sales by product category. So let's go for product category first. And for our product category, we just click on the visual that we want to have, and we come to products, we click on product category. Product category against what? Against sales, against the selling price, which is our revenue basically. So we can see now that in Power BI now, you don't need to sort. It basically arranges it for you in order of how large they are. So you don't need to sort the same way we did in our Excel. You don't need to sort. So now we can now create our line chart, so that we are going to have month and year against what? against month and year, against sales, and to do that, we are going to just go to the calendar table. We check on month and month name. So we can see now that we are going to have the same challenge, but let us just have our selling price first, and you just need to fix one or two things over here. So the axis, so the legend is supposed to be year and month name. So let us just bring year to legend, and everything looks good now. So we just need to fix the order of our month. We come to our data view and we go to our calendar table. We click on month name and we are going to have sort by column, and we sort it by month number. Everything looks good. We come back to the report view. Sometimes you just need to bring it out and bring it in again, which you just have month name in our axis, and we can see now that it has been arranged correctly. So this looks good. We can create a new page and do what we come over here now. We want to achieve something similar to top 10 products. So we are going to have our table now. We are going to have our table, and we are going to have product name against sales, which is the selling price. And after doing that, we come to filters, and under this filter, we want to filter it. We are going to use top N, and we want to have top show items, and our field is going to be selling price, and we are just have 10 over here. We just need to bring in selling price to, and we apply the filter. Now we have our top 10. So we can just come to our formatting here and we just resize, we just make it a little bit bigger. So we just set it to 14 or 16, and everything looks good. That is that about that. So this is our top 10 sales. We can label it. We can do a lot of other analysis that we want to do. But there are some fundamental differences that we have in our Power BI desktop, or with the whole of Power BI itself, that you won't have access to when you use the Power Pivot. For example, we have some visuals in our Power BI desktop, which are like the paginated reports. We have Power Automate, we have Power Apps that you can connect directly with your data and visualize it. You don't have access to this type of visual in your Power Pivot. For example, there are some also other things you don't have access to. We can implement row level security. For example, in Power BI, you can publish to Power BI desktop. All those things, you don't have access to it in the Power BI, in the Power Pivots. But can you do similar analysis? Yes, you can do. Can you write DAX measures? Yes, you can do with Power Pivots. You have it in Excel. Yes, we can do. But Power BI connects with a lot of other services you may not be able to do directly with with Power Pivot. But all your measures you can do. You can build your reports. You can design a dashboard for yourself in Excel. So the dashboard you design for yourself in Excel is a normal dashboard in Excel. But when you talk about dashboard in Power BI, it means something else. This is a report for now. When you take it to your Power BI service, we can now design a dashboard that we can use. So we can see now that there are a lot of similarities between the Power Pivot and Power BI, but there are also a number of differences between those two tools that we may use. But we can see now that Power Query is also similar to both of them. And that is all about this video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying behind to watch it. If you have learned something, kindly subscribe, like, and share. At this juncture, I check out.